Let's start. Okay, so it's gonna get stormy in this podcast as well. Okay, hello guys. Actually, I will also open to see the chat here in case some guys join us during the first episode of the ShowOfForce podcast with a very special guest. No one more qualified, and actually probably more wanted. You would be like the most wanted guest for like a podcast with me. So as you guys can see, I am starting a podcast. I'm gonna keep my guest there waiting for a bit, because I wanted to get a bit into it, why I'm doing this, what this podcast is gonna be like. I know everyone is doing a podcast, I know, and it's, I guess, something cool to do or whatever. But for me, I realized, hey, it could be a cool way for me to catch up with good friends who are like also really sick at poker, and also learn more about them for myself, but for you guys as well. So this is how this came to be, and this is how today we have with us the Highstakes legend. He probably, I mean, not probably, he for sure had the most influence on my poker career, and also in life he had like pretty big influence. Hashtag frugal lifestyle. Pretty big influence, a high stakes crusher. You guys definitely know him. We have MMAsherdog joining us for a really sick podcast today. So hello.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for inviting me, Daniel.
Yeah,
especially the first podcast ever. I feel so honored now. I might have to cry, but I won't let you guys hear it on stream.
It's fine. Yeah, it's cool. Oh, okay, so we have some guys here in the chat. Hey guys, have a good weekend. Hi Daniel. Hello. I'm here for Mr. ShowOfForce. Damn. Okay, starting it brutal. Yeah, by the way, MMA, can you see me now on the webcam? Because yeah, he cannot see me on Skype, so you guys can see me.
I can see you on the broadcast.
Okay, good. So yeah, of course, you know, MMA, very private guy. Nobody knows how he looks like. Nobody knows who he is. Some people think he's Asian. He could be black. He could have kids. He could be 40. He could be like 23.
I do not have kids. The rest I cannot confirm nor deny.
So he's a very mysterious guy. So you guys will be seeing mostly me. I hope I'm pretty enough for you today. I'm standing now, so I'm gonna be more dynamic. But I'm really looking forward to this podcast. There are a lot of questions I want to ask him. He probably doesn't know what's coming for him. This is gonna be just like a cool, chill vibe, hanging out with you guys, having quite a few guys here. Oh, and if you guys, I like this, just doing it live, so we can interact with you guys as well, and we have some streaming experience. What would you say are your streaming skills now compared to when you started MMA?
It's a good question. I'm still very bad at being on time and having resolved all my technical difficulties, but I'm obviously not the only one.
Yeah.
Given that we just struggled for like 20 minutes straight. I guess I speak more slowly. I try and finish my point. I'm less erratic. I try and, sometimes dumb things down a bit, but sometimes go in depth a little bit more. So, it's not, I sometimes have to remind myself that it's not just a coaching session for like more advanced players, but I sometimes have to just, I have to remind myself that there's also beginner players or intermediate level players or people who want to know something else, right? So I have to, I think I now appeal to a broader audience than I used to.
Wow. Okay, that's a pretty good answer. And actually, you're right. Actually, if I think about it, been watching some of your like YouTube videos. Shout out to Bluff the Spot, of course. That's how I came up. Of course, we're gonna plug it quite a few times in this podcast. I saw some videos actually with you, and actually this makes sense. Yeah, I can see how you changed your approach, and you're like, more articulate, more, you definitely appeal to a wider audience. You definitely have a very good delivery now when it comes to content. So pretty cool.
Well, Oh, I got some feedback from some of the guys who bought some products or who are students, and they said sometimes you just have to slow things down a little bit because you always go 100 miles an hour. Because as you can tell, I get excited about poker because I like poker. I like coaching poker or talking about it.
Yeah.
So they told me to slow it down, and we'll still listen to you. We won't turn off the broadcast.
Yeah.
But then we can actually understand you a bit better. So I've been trying to listen to their feedback. I still lose it sometimes, but I think I'm doing a better job now.
Okay. Makes sense. Stream. Oh yeah. So yeah. Actually, yeah. Let me know, guys. How is the sound quality? How's the? Because it's the first video stream we're doing. But yeah. In the meantime, I think maybe we should just go right in and just like see where the conversation leads. Of course, I want to start with how you started out, because I think it's pretty interesting in the sense that it seems you always had this, and this is what I like about this podcast, and that I think this is what's cool for you guys watching, that I know him very well, and I think, and actually for me and for you guys, it's gonna be pretty beneficial to actually go more in depth into like, I'm also curious like how he sees stuff, because I always noticed you always had this attitude towards work, and you always took like work seriously, and it seems like from what I know about you, that you kind of had this attitude towards like work and taking yourself seriously and taking work seriously since you were like pretty young. Like you had like some jobs before poker, and tell us about like what's your attitude towards work. When did you start to have it, like take it seriously? Do you think it's something of how you were raised, of like the culture in your country, should we say, where you're from?
Mm-hmm. As a teenager, I was quite lazy. I had a job starting at like 16, 17, just stocking shelves at a supermarket. Mm-hmm. I worked at a car dealership for over the summer, that type of stuff. So I think, my parents gave me that job not so I'd make some money, but just to give me some experience in life to, deal with waking up early, dealing with a boss, that type of stuff. So I think that's definitely helped me a little bit, but I was a very lazy teenager. I always did the absolute minimum.
Okay.
But the reason I started taking work so seriously is because it's kind of because I fell backed into a corner, right? You know that when people are backed into a corner, they're often, most dangerous.
Yeah.
For instance, if a couple of people back a man into a corner, you can expect them to be violent, right? If you don't allow somebody many options, they will do whatever it takes to, get what they want. And so that's kind of what I felt, because I graduated high school and I went to university. I quit university after 6 months. And so I just worked for 6 months waiting for the new year. Then I started again. And after 6 months, I quit again because I just didn't like what I was doing. Right. And I didn't see myself finishing 4+ years of education, starting at the bottom.
Okay.
I'm somebody that is, I think I'm a good boss and I think I'm very creative, but I'm not a very good employee. Right. I'm not very good at listening to people.
Actually, that's a very good point you made. And yeah, I would ask you, how much do you think this contributed, this like, oh yeah, like I had to go with poker, I had no other choice like visible, because it seems like this was like the situation at the time. How much do you think this contributed to you succeeding in poker and making it so fast? How much do you
100%.
Okay.
100%. So as I said, I fell backed into a corner. I thought that, I was obviously smart enough for university, but I didn't feel like I was gonna, make it a traditional way. I wanted to start something for myself, but of course you can't say, hey, I want to start a business, because you need money, you need an idea, you need expertise, etc. So when I found poker, I thought, well, this is my not necessarily my only way, but right now it's my best way of being successful, right? So I can work for minimum wage and not make a lot of money and not have many opportunities in life, but here in poker, like I'm already making decent money. What will happen if I really push things, and then see how far I can go. So that's why, even when I had a 30+ hour job, I would still play over 100K hands every month, right? Because I was so obsessed with getting better, moving up stakes, making money, and fulfilling my potential in poker to see if I can make a lot of money in that avenue. And then Eventually, when I made about 40K total, I moved to Malta. Like I quit my job, I moved to Malta and pursued things full time because I made that 40K in, I don't remember exactly to be honest, but way less than a year. So I thought,
Yeah.
hey, I'm probably making, let's say, 50K in a year, and I'm taking it seriously, but I'm not even a professional.
Yeah.
Imagine what I can do if I do become a professional. And if you imagine like me making 50 plus K or something in my early 20s, I mean that's something you can't really do in any other avenue
Yeah.
of life.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you want to be rich in the Netherlands, and the thing is, my goal is never to be rich. But if you want to be successful, like monetarily, you have to become a doctor, which takes 4 to 12 years, and obviously you have to work your ass off and really develop yourself. You have to be a lawyer, or you have to start your own business.
Yeah.
But basically, it will be a shitload of work, and it's very, very difficult, of course, right? Whereas in poker, you don't need that much of an investment. You basically ran up some of your money,
Yeah.
and you can work, from home. You can do your own thing. And so I believe it was a great way for me to achieve success. And what I always wanted, I mean, my goal was like that goal you have that you don't quite believe you can make, like when you're like 7 years old and you believe you're going to play for Barcelona or something.
Yeah.
You want to do it, but you're not quite sure you will, right? Because okay, the odds are stacked against you.
Yeah.
So I always said, I always thought when I was in my early 20s, like, to live until my 80s, let's say, you probably need about 3 million euros in the Netherlands, right?
Yeah.
Or like in Europe, 3 million euros to live like an upper middle class lifestyle, just have no worries, etc. So from the onset, my goal was I want to make that amount of money. I honestly don't think I'm going to make it, but that's like the end goal. And that is my ultimate goal.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah.
And so when you obviously go from zero, right? When you're at zero to a few thousand and then more, right? Obviously you're not even close. But because I wanted that so badly, I thought, okay, I'm just gonna push myself. I'm just gonna work all day, every day, and I did that for years. And I don't necessarily think it was the best way, the healthiest thing to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you listen to guys like Sauce and Ike, etc., they all said the same thing. They're all obsessed with improvement.
Yeah,
they're obsessed with competition, obsessed with getting better, etc. So if in the beginning of your career, you're always the most passionate, right? Always the most productive. So if right then you're already putting in poor performance, 10 years down the line, you're definitely not going to improve all of a sudden, because then you're older, right? I mean, you've already done a lot of things, so things are probably going to go downhill from there a little bit. So I wanted to really push myself and make sure that, I can comfortably make it in life, because I don't want to, let's say, make $200,000 in poker, which is a great amount of money, and then I'll quit, I'll have no job, whatever, and have to go back to working some kind of job I don't want to do, right?
Yeah.
And so I would have way more money than most people, but nothing to do with it. You could maybe buy a house for that, obviously nice, but you're nowhere near set for life.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So already learning quite a bit here, guys. Okay. I want to actually, before we talk about like your attitude towards poker and how you came up in stakes, because a lot of guys are actually also like interested in this, like your process, and actually I also have a few ideas and questions on that. But yeah, like why? I'm also curious, like, why did you want it? Kind of like backing it up a bit, like why was kind of like just doing what your friends were doing, and like, or like just like having an average life, having an average job, why was that not an option? Like, why do you think you wanted more?
Well, just my personality is a little bit different than theirs. So I'm not very, as I said, I'm not very good at taking directions. I'm not very good at waking up the same time every single day and just, going to school and listening to people that I don't want to listen to, spend hours and hours searching for things online. I like things a little bit more practical.
Yeah.
I like having a book in front of me and learning right now, whereas I don't want to just look everything up for 2 hours and then spend 15 minutes learning. So, and then start at the bottom and, not make that much money and have to wait a long time. I'm quite impatient in that sense. So I just wanted to do my own thing. I want to be responsible for my own success, but also be responsible for my own failures. And I've failed many times, right? Not overall maybe, but in lots of little things I failed, and I take full responsibility. So for instance, I don't like team sports very much, because if I win, I want it to be because of my hard work and a bit of talent, right? But
Yeah.
if I lose, it's on me as well.
Yeah.
And I will make excuses.
Okay.
Whereas in a team sport, I mean, yeah, it's fun, and I played football growing up, so soccer, that is.
Yeah.
So I mean, I have played team sports, but I don't like it that much when like other people can fuck things up for me, or they can do something right and I fuck it up, and then we still win. I want to be responsible for my own results.
That makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like, and I think like for a lot of us playing poker, that is the same, that we like to take responsibility for ourselves and just like be able to determine where and how good everything goes without relying on other people. It seems like this was like a big factor for like choosing poker and not something else, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's something I can do in my room by myself. I don't really need anybody's help for it. And if I do need help in the sense that I would like to get coached or talk to people, I could just do it online. So you don't really need to. I mean, I don't really need to be in any specific place. As long as I'm allowed to play poker there, I can do it. And that's also one of the reasons why I started Bluff the Spot, which is our coaching company that you were a part of as well, is because, I mean, again, the same thing. Imagine I make good money playing poker, but nowhere near enough. Then I'm just stuck, with some success, but not enough to be set for life. So with the coaching company, I wanted to, I mean, obviously my main goal was giving back to the community and coaching, because I really do love coaching. Yeah. I know that's something you're supposed to say, but I actually do love it. Yeah. If not, I wouldn't be able to do it every single week. But I wanted to gain business experience, because I thought, okay, right now I'm playing high stakes, but maybe in 5 years from now I won't be, right? Maybe I won't be that successful. Who knows? But so I want to start a business and basically have business experience. So eventually, if things were to not go so well anymore, I can transition to just starting my own business or developing that business, let's say.
Yeah. That's definitely a very common thought I hear like among poker players, where like eventually transitioning or like jumping into a business as well. And yeah, definitely I will want to like talk about that as well. We're still in the early phases. We're still like, actually I think something people don't know about you, maybe they're like, oh fuck, is that like when you started out, actually for a while you're not that good. You were saying like you're kind of like a fish, and I think that will help people to get some perspective of, because I think like people in general with poker, especially with poker, I think there's like a lot of like very self-critical guys, and they like to look at these like success stories of like guys moving up fast, and what that does for them is like it makes them feel like inadequate. It makes them feel okay, like I'm not good enough. I'm just like it brings them down, because they think, oh, that should be me, and if I can't do it like that, why can't that be me? Why can't I just get it so fast? And that's where like I want to point out, like for a while you just were not doing that well, right? Like in the very beginning with poker.
Sure. I mean, I was never. A fish is a relative term, right? Okay, I was never a whale or anything, but I do remember that there were certain stakes I could beat and some I couldn't, and that I didn't practice good bankroll management. I would tilt all the time, so I would basically play easy games and win quite a bit. At least back in with those stakes, I would win quite a bit, but then I always play stakes I couldn't beat, and then I would go down and bankroll again, and then up and down. So it was very inconsistent. Yeah, and I mean, I remember I played double or nothing sitting goes, and I made like $5,000 or something, but I would just donk it off at cash games then, because I believe like if I can win at poker, I can just win at any game, right? So and for a while, I mean, I was doing sports betting as well, and I was crushing that. So I was losing a bit in poker. In terms of in buy-ins, I was probably winning, but in actual money, I was probably losing a bit, because at the higher stakes, I wasn't winning. And so I would supplement my poker bankroll with my sports betting winnings, because that was no variance back in the day. And then I would try and practice, and eventually kept going poorly. And then I decided to take a break. So I took a break for 6 months. I signed up and run it once, and I just watched some of their videos. I read forum posts. I asked questions. I had people on Skype and talked to them. So I did everything I could, because basically I wanted to be at the top of my range, let's say. So after 6 months, I was at the top of my range mentally, right? Yeah. So I had improved quite a bit of poker by watching so much content. I was mentally ready, and I'd gone to a casino, and I had 200 to 300 euros, and I ran it up to around 2K, playing like 1-2 live, and obviously I was crushing that game.
Yeah.
So I took that 2K, I deposited it on PokerStars, and I thought, well, this is the best I'm ever going to be mentally as well as, preparation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I don't make it now, if I then keep going, that just means I'm delusional, right? It's important to be ambitious in life, but it's also important not to be delusional. And you see this in business a lot, where people really are passionate about an idea, but it's just not a good one. Or maybe there's just an issue, right? Then you have to be big enough to say, I really want to do this, but I honestly don't think it makes sense. And that's very difficult. Almost nobody does that, and I've made that mistake too. And that's something you have to realize, right? That the only thing that matters is whether or not it will be successful. No matter how badly you want to do it.
Yeah, having like you said, like having that sense of like reality and like kind of being grounded in how the world works, not like how you think it should work, or like, oh yeah, but this sounds really cool to me. I think that's but of course also like as a poker player and like you said, like being successful in anything really, you definitely need that self-awareness. Like you said, oh, if this goes wrong again now, like I will probably have to think about quitting. And I think that's very key, right? Because we know how, especially in poker, being a bit too delusional can definitely not lead to like some good outcomes, let's say.
And there's a very sorry to interrupt. There's a very fine line between confidence and delusion.
Exactly.
And you have to walk that line, thread that line very, very carefully. And that's what you see in the best athletes too, right? I mean, guys like Conor McGregor are supremely confident.
Yeah.
But at times you think they're a bit delusional, but then you think they're confident again. And you see, I mean, that is a guy who can lose it at any time because he's so charismatic, he's so driven and so talented. But sometimes he pushes it too far. You see this with all the top athletes. Like, I mean, almost all of them have a very dominant, assertive personality. Guys like Ronaldo, etc. People say they're arrogant, etc. I mean, you could say that's true, but that's part of what drives them to be champions. People who have almost no confidence don't really make it very far, generally, of course. Like a guy like Phil Galfond has talked a lot about how he wouldn't feel like he's good enough, or like he would feel insecure or unsure of himself. And he's obviously made it very far. But I think that most of the guys who have made it far, guys like Doug Polk, who have a big mouth and just say that they're the best, but they genuinely believe it. And there's a little bit of a delusion in that statement. Yeah. But just that attitude makes them better.
Yeah. That's a good insight there. With like, you want to be confident, you want to be, but it's not like, well, the thing I don't like this kind of like just like going too far on this kind of tangent, because like everyone knows they should be confident. It's like, oh yeah, just be confident, but just don't be delusional. I think like it's not something you work at directly, right? Like maybe getting more confidence, like I think it's also naturally born, right? Like how confident you are as a person and like how you grew up, of course, a lot of influences. But I feel like it's not something like you can just like choose, okay, I'm just gonna be confident right now. And I think like with poker, something maybe like, where would you say you can get confidence, build up some confidence when it comes to poker, like some poker confidence?
Well, there's a famous quote that says preparation breeds confidence, and that's exactly true. I mean, whenever I lose confidence in poker, it's because I've been in a couple of spots where I just don't know what to do, and I feel unprepared. I haven't looked those spots up in Pi. I haven't talked about those spots with other people, so I'm just not sure. And even if I win the hand, I don't know whether or not I leak money or maximize my EV. So there's always this lingering insecurity, and it eventually builds up when you have more of those spots heaping up, and eventually, you think like, I'm just a train wreck. I don't know if I'm just running good or if I'm actually good. So mostly when it's spots that you're not prepared for, and everybody's prepared nowadays for, let's say, a standard spot in poker like button versus big blind, but especially the uncommon spots. It's very difficult to figure them out. You have to figure them out in game because you can't possibly study every single spot that comes up in poker. So preparation is very, very important. With anything, right? I mean, if let's say you want to be more confident going out with girls, if you go to the gym a lot, you'll look better, but because of that you also feel better. You feel like you're more attractive to a woman or a man. And so even like, it's not the fact that you're in better shape, but the fact that you are, right? You're in better shape, you are prepared. And that means you probably walk with your shoulders back, you walk with your head up high, you don't slur your words, etc. And like, just that preparation breeds confidence. And then eventually you'll do better with dating or poker or whatever it is. Yeah,
that's really good. Yeah, I like that. And I think that's like very useful to kind of like think about it in that term, in those terms, okay, actually I can build confidence up, and it's not something I decide, oh, I'm just gonna be confident, because that's kind of like delusion, right? Like being like delusional is like, oh, I just decide I'm confident in this area. Like, why? Well, I just am, right? So I mean, we know.
You have to build a foundation for confidence first.
Yeah.
You can keep that facade up for a little bit, but eventually that just falls down. So no, you cannot keep that up. You need a reason to be confident, right? And if you're good, if you're legitimately good at poker, that is a reason to be confident.
Yeah. What we have like a question here, like, what is this podcast for? It's a good question. It's a good question. That's why I wanted to address it. And yeah, by the way, guys, if you will have questions, think about like some good questions, and we will like address more of them towards the end, because I like having for now like a back and forth, like with MMA here, and like us freestyling here, and like maybe integrating more questions towards the end. So think about like some good questions you want to know that we will not be covering. And what is this podcast for? It's a good question. I think I would say it's for guys who just want to improve. Definitely for everyone who wants to improve in poker, just be better at poker. But for me, a personal goal with this podcast is for anyone like just like to reveal how someone successful thinks and what you can take away from it in your life, and actually like diving deeper and like why does this person have the results that he has, and maybe integrating some stuff, learning stuff about like what you can do for yourself. And this is why this is not a private conversation. Like, we're friends, we talk all the time, but I decided, okay, let's open this up for other people, because I think there is a lot of stuff to learn from MMA. Like, there is a lot of stuff we can talk about that I think it will help a lot of people. So I guess that's the main reason. Of course, just like also keeping in touch with a friend, and also some trolling, of course, fucking around, that's gonna be always a part when ShowOfForce is around. Okay, so I'm actually curious, like going back to it, because again, this is a topic people are interested in, and I'm also interested in. So you were like starting out, and you had this period where, like you said, you were working a full-time job, or like you had like a job, and you were still playing 100K hands a month. So hearing that, also like when I first heard it, like, oh fuck, okay, this is serious. How was that, like, go a bit into it, like how was that period for you, and how did you have the drive to push so far? I think you kind of like, you covered it a bit, but you just like were working like really, like that sounds like really like a lot of hard work. What do you think like pushed you so far?
Well, as I said, I felt like it was my only option to be really successful, and that was very important to me, because, if I have kids eventually, I want to be able to provide for them. I want them to have a secure future, right? Or if I have a wife, I'm not interested in men. So if I do get a wife, I want to make sure. I mean, I'm not somebody who believes too much in like traditional gender roles. Like, I would want my wife to be successful as well.
Yeah.
But at least I want my part covered, right? And then if like she has a job that pays equally well, that's great. If it's a bit less or much less, that's fine. Obviously, I wouldn't want somebody who just sits on the couch all day and treats me as her ATM. So I'm not interested in a woman like that.
Good game selection there.
Good game selection, exactly. So, no, I mean, I just really wanted to be successful. And like, when you really want something, you need a reason to want something, right? So what I always do, I set goals. So I set some goals from the short term. For instance, later today I'll be playing a session. What do I want to focus on? What are my leagues and how do I plug them? That's just a short term league. Yeah. Or for instance, I want to eat better. I actually haven't had chocolate in over 3 days now. So, you have to be careful with what you say, ShowOfForce. You know how I get. If I were in your apartment right now, I'd be looking through every single cabinet looking for chocolate, right?
Yeah.
You've seen it happen. So, but yeah, so I set goals for the short term, mid term, and long term. And long term, saying like I want to be set for life. That's obviously a long term lofty goal. But and then I basically have smaller goals, and I figure out like how do I get to that eventual spot where I want to be. Yeah. But if like what I noticed in the beginning, when obviously that number or that type of success seemed unrealistic, I was just like playing for the sake of playing, right? Also just
Yeah.
for enjoyment of the game. But
Yeah.
because I didn't really have goals, at least like for the shorter midterm, I would seem to just be gambling, right? So
Okay.
when, let's say, some regular was attacking me the whole time and I was pissed off,
Yeah.
it would be more of an ego battle. Whereas nowadays I just think, well, I want to achieve something, and me gambling with him is going to give me maybe a tiny bit of satisfaction right now, but it's going to push me back, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to be focused on that goal and doing whatever it takes to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it. And that's obviously, just in theory, it doesn't always work. There's definitely people who annoy me or situations that get to me. It's not as if people who play high stakes are robots that have no emotions. I'm not a very emotional guy at all, but obviously I do have emotions at the poker table because I mean it's your money at play, right? It's real money.
Yeah.
You can lose, and at high stakes you can lose quite a bit of it. So it can be a bit stressful sometimes, but as long as you have a reason to do something, that's why I tell my students, and even on stream, I tell people, set your background picture, like set your goals as your background picture on your computer.
Okay. So
if let's say you got a baby, right? You have one screen for playing, you got one screen for just for lobbies. Put your baby on the background, and when you're about to gamble with some 19-year-old guy scratching his balls right now in his mom's basement, do you think you'd rather be attacking him, or do you want to provide for your baby? And when you look at him or her and think, okay, that's why I'm doing it, I think you'll be able to just calm down and say, I'm going to make the best play, even if that means that regular will feel a bit smug because he would have owned you, or etc.
Yeah, and that I think just going back to that, sorry, it's like I think that's like a big factor. It sounds like from what I know you and like from what you've been saying here, it seems like in that period, because that's kind of like in a way that's a very critical period when you had a job, you were trying to make the transition, you were trying to make like that jump in and it's like the period where like you probably start going up stakes and stuff, and you have this, and I'm curious actually about your perspective on this, because it sounds like this was probably the main factor, or like the biggest factor by far, when it comes to like why you were so successful, why you did go up stakes, because it seems like just because it's something like you really, really wanted. Conversely to, and I had people in the chat. I had people in my Discord chat, asking what were some of his study routines, how did he approach, like what was his like daily routine, and like what it was like daily life, study routine. And actually I want to ask you, because I'm curious like what you think about this, how much was it, do you think like the merit was on like actually you really wanted it really much and you really like a lot, and it's like really a big thing for you, conversely to like that was like the main merit to why you got so good, versus you just had very good routines, you just had like a very good structure, you just had like you were studying the right stuff? How much do you think it was just that, having a good structure, being very organized and having the right routines, conversely to like it's just something you really, really wanted and you were like doing anything you could to just get better? Because from me knowing you, it sounds like okay, you just wanted it very bad. It was not like you had like an optimal routine, you had not like a very structured approach or something. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it was 100% desire. 100% desire. My routine is still one of my weaknesses. I'm a very chaotic, messy, unorganized guy. So no, I would wake up and be playing poker within 5 minutes, which is something I would tell my students not to do now, because you're not fully awake. Even when we're about to start the podcast, I was worried, oh shit, am I even fully awake? Yeah. And if I want to give proper answers, I need to be awake. So yeah, I would play when stressed, I would play when tired, I would play suboptimally, random games. There would be no structure in my game whatsoever. It was purely the desire to win. But sometimes it's important to take a step back and point that desire in the right direction.
Nice.
Right? Yeah. Just say, let's say you want to get better at a sport. Let's say you want to get better at boxing. If just doing more push-ups or just throwing more jabs on the bag is not necessarily going to make you better. Yeah. More calories burned, more heartbeats, right? Yeah. Higher heartbeat does not equate to being a better boxer or a better athlete in general. You have to be smart. So some people have a lot of desire, but they just focus, they just channel their focus into doing as much as they can rather than working smart. And that's something that I only really fully understood, about a year ago, is that, it's really about I mean, the EV, obviously the EV is all that matters, right? If you're looking for maximum EV, the outcome is what matters, but just pushing harder and harder doesn't always make sense. So, for instance, I would be cooking while playing poker. Like, I would never really take full breaks, and then I would eventually just wear down. So if you look at how many days I played, it was usually 30 out of 31. But then you saw my productivity would go down gradually, and eventually I would just be, a mess. Whereas now I try and focus a little bit more on having regular breaks, working slightly less hard. But then when I do work, my productivity and my mood are generally better. So I focus more on quality rather than quantity. Obviously, I was not a guy just fucking around working 20 hours a day. I was trying to be smart. For instance, you can't just play 12 tables anymore. When I was coming up, I would often play 12 tables. But nowadays, I mean, I'm also getting older, right? 5 years ago, that was easier.
Yeah, now
but you
45.
can't just. I'm 45, exactly. Soon to be 55 in 2 months. But yeah, you have to work smart. You can't just say, I'm just going to work as hard as I can, but not really think about how to structure anything. For instance, let's say you guys are listening, you're playing 100L, right? I'm sure there's a couple of you right now. You should first have decided which site you play on, because one site, like one network might just provide 30% more EV than the other one. If you were to do some PIO studying sessions or whatever, maybe you get like a few percent better after 10 hours of studying. But without any studying, you could just have 30% more EV. If there's a site with softer player pools or more rake back or lower rake or whatever the advantage is, right?
Yeah,
so like somebody who does, so old me would have just said, I'm just going to play on whatever site I find most comfortable, like PokerStars, right? Or the coolest. And I'm just going to work my absolute ass off. Whereas I could have just saved a bunch of time and work by looking into things a little bit. And then again, that's part of structure, right?
Yeah. Do you think that helped you actually? Like, do you think there's like any benefit? Do you think there's like guys guys here maybe? Actually, by the way, do you see the chat? Do you follow the chat?
Yes.
Okay, so
I can see the chat.
He can see the chat, guys. So actually, because you mentioned that, and how do you think there's any good things in approaching it like that? Oh yeah, I'm just gonna play on stars, or like I'm just gonna play, or like I enjoy playing. And because it sounds like for you, and knowing you again, the advantage of like knowing who I'm talking to, it sounds like at the beginning of your career, I know like you are a pretty competitive person. Actually, I remember now when I beat you in table tennis and you got pretty mad, you got pretty tilted. Just remembered. Okay, so I know you're like pretty competitive. You are a very competitive person, and it sounds like in the beginning of your career, you were more like kind of like chasing that competitive feeling, like trying to own the other guy. And it sounds like you still have it now, but you kind of like it sounds like you slowly made a transition from just like being someone very competitive and I just want to crush everyone and I just don't care about game selection, to now it sounds way more like you are someone who thinks about EV a lot. You are someone who thinks about is more like calculated in his approach. Like you said now earlier, guys, you should play on sites where you make more money. Why do you think, like, how do you think that transition happened? Why do you think it happened? And do you think there are some good things in being just like that competitive guy?
Well, I mean, your brain doesn't fully mature until 25, right? So if you're in your early 20s, you're more likely to just be gambling a bit. But I mean, I think you're exaggerating it a little bit. Like, I was never just like a crazy gambler or anything. I did only play on stars for the first while, at least after I deposited that 2K, tried once more. So I did only play on stars. But I mean, I only played Zoom, right? And when I played regular tables, I only played with fish in there. So actually my game selection was good. Eventually, when I started moving up to like 10, 20, 25, 50, in the beginning, I did have some bad game selection at times. And I mean, I probably played a few thousand hands maximum that, where maybe I was minus EV. So in the end, it really wasn't that bad. And then, obviously I learned from my German friends who are huge nets that it's very important to game select well, because variance is tough. Because I remember in the beginning, when I first started playing 5K, of course, the first couple of times you only play with a big fish, but then you go on a big of an upswing, and then you have a bit of an ego boost. And so I started playing some reg games, and then there were some very, very bad regs around that I was easily beating. But then I would also sometimes challenge OTB three-handed, maybe 3-4 sessions total, so not often, right? I remember it was Alex, Trev, and OTB.
Yeah.
And that was like late at night. It would just be like an hour before I go to bed. So I would just play OTB and Alex Trev three-handed because I wanted the lobby. I was never a guy that just wanted to play reg games for the sake of playing reg games.
Okay.
I wanted to play reg games to have the lobby so I can get so I could get the table with a fish, because back then in the beginning I didn't have a seeding script.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, that was always the goal. The goal was not just to sit there, play some cards, and when the fish sits, I leave because I just want to play tough players. And there's people who do that right now.
Yeah,
I can mention like 5 names easily that people probably fanboy.
Yeah. But do you think that there's like a merit there for those guys having this approach of like battling and just like being pretty shit with game selection? Do you think there's like some merit to like makes you more passionate about the game and do you think that has a big role in improving you? Do you think if these guys had a different approach, would they be as good if they didn't like battling and being very competitive and bad game selection at times?
No, I mean, it definitely makes you better, right? The tougher your opponents, the better you get yourself, but that doesn't necessarily make you the most money. Mm-hmm. So I think there's merits to it for sure, but in the end, I mean, we are professionals, and I think the top priority should be trying to make the most EV you possibly can.
Yeah.
So I mean, I remember I was playing OTB sometimes and Alex Trev, and I thought, okay, OTB wasn't like very clear on top yet. He was clearly one of the best, and I thought he was probably better than me. I mean, I knew he was better, but I thought he wasn't better by much. OTB style in the beginning, I always matched up very well with, whereas in the last few years, not so much. But I thought, okay, Alex Trev, he's a good player, but I think I'm beating this guy pretty clearly. I'm losing to OTB, but not much. I'm probably about, including the rake, I'm probably about break even. So, I justified playing because I thought, well, I'm not losing money, right? It's just variance.
Yeah.
But then you could say it's plus EV in the sense that I'm improving quite a bit. At the same time, I'm breaking even roughly. But nowadays, I mean, I just don't think it's a good decision, right? Because if you play a 6-max game with a fish, you still play, especially at high stakes, you play against 4 very tough opponents.
Yeah.
So it's still not as if you're not getting that competition, right?
Yeah.
Plus, you're actually making money, which drives down the variance. And, sure, playing some reg games sometimes makes sense. In fact, I was doing it last night. But I don't play reg games just for the sake of playing them. Back then, I wanted glory and I wanted to, I wanted to be the best.
Yeah.
But eventually, I realized that's not the best way of making money. I have to, get back to just making money my priority. And if I become the best in the meantime, and while trying, then that's great. But that's not going to be my number one goal.
Yeah.
And I don't think that reg games at all make you more happy in the long run.
Okay.
People kind of glorify them, but I don't think there's glory in it at all. Sure, if you're like OTB and you crush everybody for 5 years, yeah, there is.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people, what people don't see is all the guys who just go on big downswings that you don't hear from him again. Because look at the guys who have been reg gaming since forever and still are around. Katya 18, OTB. I mean, he doesn't really play much anymore, but he clearly is still very successful. And I guess Linus. Those are the only guys. If you look at all the other guys, they're either broke. They've committed suicide, or at least they're depressed, or they've quit poker, or they now play live, or they play tournaments. Almost nobody is still around, right?
Yeah.
Because this is clearly not a viable way to make a living.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, if you just forever run good, there's a guy called Iceman 2710. He's a buddy of mine. I've met him before.
Yeah.
And he's kind of a guy who, he made some money at mid stakes, just the way everybody does. He do a game select at mid stakes and just do a good job. And then he completely lost his mind at high stakes and played everybody. And most of the guys would agree that he was never plus EV in those games. I mean, very clearly, although he was a good player. Yeah. But he just went on a gigantic upswing and never really had a downswing. But then he said, "Fuck it, I quit," and you didn't really see him again.
Yeah.
So he's a guy who kind of got really lucky and ran with it. But how many guys do that, right?
Yeah.
How many guys do that? No, eventually they keep upping the ante, and then they just lose it all, and then you don't hear from them again. Whereas had they just stuck to mid stakes or just bum hunting high stakes, they would just have 10 times more money. Invoker is a great example. Again, I don't try to shit on people. I don't like using names, but he and I came up around the same time at mid stakes, and then even at high stakes, we were both shotting it at the same time.
Yeah. And
I think he ran a little bit better than I did in the beginning because we were kind of even in skill.
Yeah.
And then for just years, he was just playing everybody three-handed, just OTB, Linus, everybody who played three-handed.
Yeah.
But I would never see him on other sites, or I'd never see him really in good games.
Yeah.
And I just saw a guy who probably had negative EV or like barely positive, because obviously sometimes he would get into good games on stars as well because he would hold lobbies. And that was probably just a guy just swinging up and down all the time. And then eventually, you think, hey, where's in poker? I haven't seen that guy in a few months. And yeah, you hear, oh, I'm retired. There's no more money in the game. And you see a perfect example of somebody who thinks poker is dead. But yeah, I mean, if you believe a leak in people is, them falling 44% to c-bet instead of 42, yeah, then poker kind of is dead. But meanwhile, I'm playing on party poker. I'm playing a whale for 3 tables at 10K, and I'm laughing my ass off, saying, "Well, if you were in this game, you'd be making a lot of money."
Yeah.
So you see, he and I were probably at the same skill level.
Yeah.
But I had more success just because I had a better approach.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to be smug because I did this wrong as well, right?
Yeah.
I did it wrong. I learned from people around me, like my nitty German friends, and of course, just studying other players.
Yeah.
And then I improved.
Yeah.
But I mean, your approach is very important. So you'll still see me play reg games sometimes because I believe they're plus EV, and because I think it's very important to hold a lobby. Yesterday I had 2 fish at 10K. I got them because I was open sitting. By clicking, I wouldn't have made it, right?
Yeah.
But because people respect my game enough to the point where people rarely play, I was able to get the seat.
Dodging the ShowOfForce there.
But at the same time, I'm obviously not just going to play reg games all day long, and then let's say a good fish shows up, and then I'm too tired, and then I just quit. That obviously doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can play reg games selectively to have lobby respect, and obviously if you believe it's plus EV, but you shouldn't play reg games just to play them, right? Yeah. And it's not as if there's no competition in just playing tough players.
Yeah.
Because, you play 3. I mean, maybe like there's 1 week a regular at the table sometimes, but you still play 3 at least world-class regulars.
Yeah.
So that's not easy. That's not easy by any means. And if you guys ever played a guy like Limhouse can beat you up for 5 5 buy-ins at 10K pretty easily. He's a guy who always loses a few stacks, or he runs it up to 50, 60K. He can own you for sure. Yeah. He makes some funky plays, and he can own you. It's not as if it's free money. If let's say I played a private home game with 8 fish and myself, and I just win 300 days straight, yeah, so fuck it. I might say, hey, I'm gonna challenge who I believe are number 1 and 2, practice a bit, have some fun, and go back to my amazing game. Sure, but that's not how it works, right? It's not that easy.
Yeah, that's pretty big right there. And I think like for a lot of guys watching, and like for me, and like I think this is like this is like the key difference you're talking about kind of like, okay, like what's your main goal? What's the point of poker for you? Is it? I feel like it does sound like there's like kind of 2 big categories of people. They play for like the enjoyment, the glory, the status. They just played it because for the game, to just get better at the game, and just like for competition, and just like purely for enjoyment in a way. It's just like playing it as a game. And then there's guys who, and of course this is like not that black and white, it's like gray, because it's like there's usually like people are a mix from these. But then there's like this other big category of guys who are like, they're like professionals. They are treating this like a job. They are trying to make the most money from this. They see poker not as a game or something like to enjoy themselves. They see poker as work, as a job, as a business, let's say. And they just like go for the high EV, and like shout out to the German friends. And with you, I feel like this is, and in a way I'm grateful that you learned this from them and they contributed to this with you, because this is one of the biggest things I learned from you. I feel like it's like a big thing. You may say maybe I did not fully learn it, and I could agree. Wait, there's like some noise outside. But this, I think, one of your main skills that people don't really realize, and one of the main skills that kept you on top for so long and like crushing high stakes for so long, is actually you being a very good professional. And this is something I learned from you. I realized, like if I have a good table, I'm not gonna quit that table. If I have a big fish, I have like real like trouble quitting games if I have like a good fish at the table. And like having like good like bankroll management, and that kind of goes without saying, but just like seeing you like how professional, like how, I think this is like a big skill that people don't really understand as well. And it's just like it's a skill that if you don't have good bankroll management, if you just like don't really have like a big emphasis on like going in high EV games and playing high EV games most of the time, it does feel like this is something like can really break your career. And I feel like for you, this is like one of your like very big strengths, that you're a pro. You're just there. Like I know you've been like waking up at really random times. Like I really like, because there's like a fish showing up. Like I don't really know people doing that. Like of course it's high stakes, it's like less games, but like yeah, like you waking up at weird hours, you like staying up. Oh yeah, like I stayed up until like 10 in the morning. Like how what would you say like are like some big kind of some like big like maybe like top 3 like traits of like being a professional, and like how like what are like some traits there like of like taking your game more seriously and taking like having a professional approach? What would you be like your take there?
Well, number one would be proactively looking to increase your EV at all times. So basically figuring out what the best time to play is, and at high stakes that varies. So say right now I usually play 2 sessions in the evening, whereas before I play like in session afternoon and one in the evening. But there hasn't been anything going on in the evening lately, so I'm in the afternoon lately. So I'm just playing evenings, right? Because in the evenings the games are good. So I try and play on every single site. I try and play good volume. I employ good game selection. I will play a reg game sometimes, but only selectively if I believe the game is good in EV, and it actually helps me, right? So I'm always looking for ways to kind of sharpen up not just my poker game, but also my approach. Back in the day, you could just gamble it up. You could just spin it up with no variance.
Yeah. Just
challenge people at high stakes, and then maybe you get lucky. But if you don't, you just move back down, and then you just spin it back up again. So I was telling the story on stream the other day. Like Phil Galfond, he said that he played Phil Ivey 300, 600 heads up, I believe, with 10 buy-ins. And he would have a 1 buy-in stop loss. Right, so if he loses the 60K, he would just go back to 5K, 10K, crush everybody with ease, and then just go try again. And back then you could do that, right? So Phil nowadays would tell you that's a ridiculous approach, right?
Yeah.
That's an approach that wouldn't work nowadays. But back then, you could get away with it because he would just go back to 5K, 10K, maybe 20K. He would crush everybody, go back. He would have a 600K bankroll again, and eventually you're gonna have to double up.
Yeah.
And then but then what? Then you win a couple buy-ins and you've got 700 or 800. Okay, great. But then it's very easy to just say, instead of just playing a good pro, I'm just playing Phil Ivey heads up until the end of time. And if you look at, that like the EV of just playing tons of slightly lower games is higher than just playing one table against somebody extremely good whom you may not be beating. And then once you've played those games, you're exhausted. You think, okay, I've done a lot of work, and then good games pop up at lower stakes, but still quite high stakes for him, right? Yeah, and then you won't play them because he's tired. So you see, there's also, you're playing heads up, so there's no, like, you're not playing to then get a fish at the table, let's say. So at least if you say, okay, at around 5 p.m., let's say Limos, for like 6 months straight a while ago, like years ago, he would show up every morning at around 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Right, and people would set their alarm to like 9, and they at like 9:40, let's say, they would play a reg game, and by 10 they would have 3 tables with him or 4 tables with him.
Yeah.
So then that's selective reg gaming, right? Or that's selectively investing a little bit. Yeah. So that's smart.
Yeah.
But that's different to just, let's say, playing a reg game at 5 in the morning when no fish is going to show up, and then then you miss the fish when he does show up at like 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. or whenever it is.
Yeah.
So basically, always looking to increase your EV. Yeah. That to me is very important. Obviously, that includes having a good work ethic by setting goals and realizing what you're after. And number 3, which I probably didn't value as much in the past, was just having a good time along the way. Because I woke up at 1 p.m. today. I'm not proud of that, but if I had a regular job, I wouldn't be able to do that. I'm my own boss. Nobody can really tell me what to do, right? Yeah. I have a lot of freedoms that my friends are very envious of. So, but sometimes I forget about them because they're so normal to me now. Yeah. So you have to enjoy yourself along the way and just realize what you're doing. Just in the just last year, I went to Japan, I went to Brazil, I went to America, to Canada, different parts of Europe. I played poker all over the world, that type of stuff. I had lots of little trips to places. I had lots of like really nice exotic meals or whatever. I've met people from all over the world. These are really good things that you should be enjoying, and I obviously did some, but not enough. As in, I shouldn't necessarily spend more time doing them, but just realize like how much of a privilege that is. And I created it myself, so I don't have to apologize to anybody for that.
Yeah.
Haven't done anything wrong, but I should kind of recognize that I did something good and, you know, kind of smell the roses a little bit.
Okay, so you think that helps you be more motivated.
Yeah, rather than having tunnel vision, just only looking at that goal, right? Yeah. So yeah, you know what my end goal was, you know, when I started all those years ago. So, but along the way, you have to look to the side a little bit and see like, hey, there's something nice going on as well. So the journey is obviously as important as the destination. Otherwise, you might spend 10 years doing nothing but that, and then those 10 years are kind of lost, right? And then you'll have really good years once you're set.
Yeah, that's a very good point of like kind of like stopping to appreciate what you built so far and where you are at, because yeah, like you said, like a lot of people don't have these freedoms, and I mean, to be fair, you kind of pay for it. Fuck it, like poker can be very stressful, and I know for you as well. I know for myself, you know, I always tell this thing of like me crying on the beach. So like it is really tough. But yeah, like might as well enjoy it. Might as well like, okay, like appreciate, let's make some more light here. Appreciate your hard work and where you are at right now. That's probably like a very good way to also like keep yourself motivated and keep going. Now I think like another thing that people that I appreciate with you, and actually it had a big, yeah, actually I never told you this, but this had like a very big impact on me when I moved to Malta, and I met you guys, you and Run Like Panda, the two head coaches back then, I think, of Bluff the Spot, coming there. Like for you guys that don't know, like basically I took a big gamble moving to Malta. I had like 10K as my whole bankroll, or like 9K, and I was paying like, how much was like €820 rent a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was like a huge commitment for me, but again, it was like I really wanted to like get better at poker, and I knew like, okay, living with them, it's gonna be very hard for my bankroll for a while, but it's a long-term investment, it will make sense. And yeah, like as MMA mentioned earlier, like I was one of the first students. I did pretty well. I did like in the beginning, but then like I learned a lot. I did very well. I eventually actually then like also coached for them. So actually I am a big result, actually. Yeah, well, MMA and like the whole Bluff the Spot actually organization is probably like one of the main reasons, definitely the main factor that shaped my trajectory with poker. So that was like a big gamble for me. But so going back to like what impressed me with you guys, I was like, okay, it's gonna be very expensive for me going there. It's gonna suck. And these guys, I know MMA he's playing Highstakes. I'm gonna go there, and they're gonna be like wanting to like spend a lot of money, go out a lot. They're gonna be like really like huge ballers, and it's gonna be some pressure on me. It's like I cannot spend money. I was preparing myself mentally to like keep saying no to you guys, like weird like baller like stuff. I don't like going out to expensive dinners and stuff. But then, actually, those years, I was like pretty shocked that it's like you were not much of a baller, and that's one of the things that really stuck out. And I think a lot of people don't know about you, that you guys were not really going out to dinner. Like mostly, like we were like cooking for ourselves, and like a big thing is like you were not, and like you still are not, but maybe a bit more now. But you were not a big spender, ever, and I think. Probably I would like to for you to like to talk a bit also on like how that is important, like managing your bankroll there, because I think like a big risk, and probably you do definitely know people like this who, as their bankroll grows and skill and bankroll grows, they start to spend more money, and basically they're kind of like in the same spot where they're not very good at managing their money. So I know sometimes I was calling you the most humble millionaire, nicknaming you like that. What's your take on that, on like being more like conservative with money? Like how important do you think it is as a poker player to like not overspend, to like manage your money and just be the most like how to be the most humble millionaire?
It's mostly important in the beginning, because the money that you make, you should always reinvest, right? So if you, instead of spending it on something you don't have to spend on, you can reinvest it and therefore play higher stakes or whatever, that will make you more EV.
Yeah.
Right. So once eventually you've got so much money, let's say like you need 100K for poker, right? But then you have like 100 behind that you don't really need, and you're not really investing on the side. Then yeah, if you allow yourself a bit of to spend a bit of money on something fun, that's perfectly fine. But with you, for instance, in the beginning, that was definitely not smart, because if you have a larger bankroll, you can play higher stakes and then just accelerate your progress.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's part of my success is that I don't really care too much about money. That's obviously genetic. I have that from my grandfather, who was a big nit. I mean, when he grew up, like he saw World War II, etc. Like he knows about uncertainty in life, so he always wanted to have some money behind.
Yeah.
So he never really spent any money. My parents are much less like that. My parents don't squander money, but they definitely spend way more money than I do.
Okay.
So no. My mom buys artwork and expensive lamps and stuff like that, and I always laugh at that. But that means something to her, so to me that's fun. So yeah, once you've got some money that you are not going to reinvest in your career, sure, allow yourself a bit more, and eventually it is good to smell the roses a little bit, right? It is good to say, okay, I've made this money, I'm going to spend a little bit of it. But and that's also human nature, and that's fine. But you obviously can't take it too far. And you should also not only play for money. So the thing is, I said I wanted to be set for life, but I just want that for security. I don't really care about, I don't really need anything special, right? What I enjoy most, the only thing I really spend a bit of extra money on is food, right? I like going to dinner, stuff like that. Not necessarily fancy dinners, but I like good food. Yeah. But other than that, I think we should just focus on the basics of life, right? Just enjoying nature, enjoying our food, working out, hang out with our friends and family, maybe some traveling, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And what you see is in Western civilization, where which is way more complicated, is that's where you usually see depression, etc., and suicide. Whereas in the Arabic cultures or the Eastern cultures, their depression also is prevalent because of work pressure. Because of social status. But you see basically the cultures that take it a bit easier, as in that focus just on the basics in life, they tend to be happier. And that's not necessarily because of wealth, right? You'll see that people who have people who have absolutely nothing and fear death all the time are not very happy. Yeah. People who are one step above that, who have enough food, they are secure, right? They tend to be very happy. And people, of course, who have a little bit more. But then when you look at people who have a lot more, but also a lot more to worry about, those people are not that happy anymore. Or even if you look at the very top of the hierarchy, look at a guy like Jeff Bezos. Do you think he's happier than you and I are?
I don't know.
I would guess probably not.
Maybe not.
I mean, there was a study I read years ago that said if you make over $250,000 a year, your happiness actually goes down. I'm not sure if that was worldwide or just for America, but if you make too much money, you cannot fully spend that money or use that money anymore, to enjoy more things. But at the same time, you add so much stress. So having a bit extra is obviously good, but just wanting too much, that will just cause more problems.
Yeah. Actually,
or you look at people who are famous, for instance. I imagine a lot of them must be very, very unhappy, right, with the constant pressure they're under. It must be exhausting. So just having enough and enjoying the basics of life. That's what you, for instance, see in more traditional cultures. They really focus on family, on food, on health. On just having a good spirit. I think that's more important than all these just having things you don't need. So one tip I would give is that look at the things you like and just allow yourself a bit more. So let's say you normally I really like food, so I spend a little bit more money on food, right? I like traveling, so maybe instead of a decent hotel, I go to a pretty good hotel, right? Or instead of going 2 weeks, I might go 17 days. So basically, I look at what I already enjoy and I allow myself a bit more. But I don't start doing things that I don't enjoy. So I'm not going to buy Gucci clothing just because that's what rich people do, right? Because I don't enjoy that. That does absolutely nothing for me. And also, I don't think you should care too much about what other people think. So as in your example, right?
Yeah.
If we're going to look down on you for not spending that much money when we know obviously you don't have that much, then we're douchebags you don't want to be friends with anyway. Right? So you should just do what's best for you. And you should just be comfortable in your own skin. And that type of confidence is radiant, right? And people will take notice and they will say, this person is truly comfortable with who he is. Even though, traditional social status would disagree with that type of lifestyle. Like maybe if let's say some people are overweight a little bit, but they don't care at all. And people are like, okay, this guy is comfortable with himself, right? Whereas people who tend to be in better shape than him, but are less confident, those are the people whose lack of confidence you really notice. So you should just say, hey, it's best for my bankroll to not spend that much because I've got a lot of bills to pay. Yeah. So I'm not going to spend much money to improve my career. Yeah. But I would have less respect for you if you said, I'm going to spend a lot of money to look cool for my friends, even though it will hurt my life. Right? You should just say, I'm doing what's best for my life. And if you don't like it, then you can fuck off, but in a slightly nicer way. And that, I think, shows real confidence, and that will actually build respect and trust. Right? Yeah. Those people who don't really fake anything, who just say, this is who I am. Yeah. And if you don't like it, that's too bad. But I'm not gonna hurt my own life just to make myself look better for people who I don't even know, or people who don't really have any effect on me.
Or you can just buy, like Volcommerce says here, you can just buy fake Gucci to have the best of both worlds. I have 7 fake Gucci hats. Hats off to you. Okay. Okay, yeah. I have it on me. I have the lines. Okay.
What a pun.
Yeah, sick outplay. Okay, so quite a bit. I think it's very dense, very good, very like a lot of info there. Like, and yeah, this is what I like about this podcast. It's like I know you. I know like there's like I know your strengths probably like more than other people. Let's go a bit more towards poker because there's one question that came up, and I'm also curious because also, to be honest, I'm not sure what the best approach is there. And you have a lot of experience as a coach. I mean, you probably have like, I don't know, like probably like thousands of hours of coaching by now. And you worked with a lot of students. You saw like a lot of like what works, what doesn't work. So one question that I got in the Discord chat, and yeah, by the way, guys, you can always just join my Discord. It's gonna be like in the previous videos in the description. We talk about like a lot of stuff, a lot of poker and fun stuff and investing, and we're gonna talk about this a bit later here as well. Not gonna keep MMA too long though. So one common question with poker when it comes to improving. From what you saw in students, what's your opinion now on, so when you study, when you're improving your game, you could be studying many areas of the game. So let's say like many spots, whatever, like button, small blind, whatever, like all these spots, and you could just get decent at them. So you get like good fundamentals everywhere, or you can take one area at a time and just go very deep on one area, and just like you will be getting through like way less areas, but the areas you just know them very well. What do you think is the better approach there?
It depends on your skill level. So if let's say you're a beginner or an intermediate level player, every part of your game needs significant work. So let's say in every asset of your game, every facet of your game is like 6 out of 10. I would just still work on a bit of everything to turn it into 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. But eventually, like the more specialized you become, the more you have to just look at one area, right? But if let's say you play on 05, I would not say, we only focus on button big blind. No, I'd say you focus on like watching videos by coaches who play higher stakes and kind of see a bit of everything that's going on, because you just need to improve your knowledge of the game, improve everywhere. Yeah. But once let's say you play higher stakes and you've looked up most spots, then yes, it's time to look at a couple of small things in depth. So that's why I don't really run many scripts anymore. I just run single sims most of the time, is because I want to look at very specific things, because I know I have knowledge of every spot, so I want to have more knowledge in a couple of like very specific ones.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Nice. What about NL100? What's this like show about? I assume it's like Seinfeld about nothing done by nobody. Yeah, okay.
and look at how successful Seinfeld became.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, I'm fine with being compared to Seinfeld. People asking, am I a coach for Bluff the Spot? Why aren't you a coach anymore? No, yeah, actually, I'm still like, as you can see, I'm still friends with the guys. It was like also like a lot of me like just wanted to have a big period to focus on my game. And I felt like I had like a lot on my plate, and actually I was working very closely. I was handling the social media with Bluff the Spot. I felt like I was doing too much stuff, so basically I wanted to take a break and actually focus on just getting better at poker. And actually that's how with some nice staking in the mix with my skill level, that's how actually soon after I made quite a bit of money. About yeah, MMA knows quite a bit about that. So that was apparently a good move. But yeah, I still do coaching now, like some one-on-one hourly, but it's not something like, it's not a big part for me actually. And yeah, let's transition to this, because now MMAsherdog, you're doing a lot of stuff now, right? You're like still like very competitive, like again, like you're holding the lobbies at Highstakes poker. You also have stuff with Bluff the Spot. You're like doing coachings, you're doing live streams, and a lot of like random other stuff. There's always stuff to do, right? So how do you say, like, how do you balance all this?
Well,
While
honestly,
still being like very good at poker.
it's also just a lack of hobbies. I mean, this is what I like to do most of the time. So I don't really like having days off. I like relaxing for 2 hours, but then I already want to get back to work, or I want to get back to doing something.
Yeah.
So I mean, what I do mostly now is like during the day I do mostly coaching and streaming, etc. And during the evening I play. And in the meantime I do my own stuff, which is not related to, you know, like business stuff that's not related to Bluff the Spot nor
Also investing,
to,
also having like
playing.
other ventures there. Yeah.
Yeah, which is something you can get into, but I would say don't half-ass it. Either really learn about it and take advice from other people, or don't do it. You know, because I told you that a long time ago, like no investment is better than a bad investment.
That was huge. Yeah, like you telling me that, and let's actually like now like transition. So like basically to answer my question there, it's like you just do the stuff all the time. That's true with you, and I know you don't like it sometimes. I know like like this is boring. I need a hobby. But I think that's like a big merit why you are where you are, because guys, like he's always doing something. He was always at his computer, and he was like the other roommate of ours, Johnny, he was always making fun, like he's such a big name, he doesn't do anything, he doesn't have fun. But yeah, he was always there, always in the living room, always grinding, or like always playing poker, or just doing some work. So I think that's like a big reason why he's where he is, and like he said, he just does stuff all the time, and that's how he balances so many areas. Yeah, let's go a bit into investing, because I really liked, and yeah, I had to burn myself a bit, but I really liked your approach on this, because you went into investing, right? Like, because like you said, like once you have some money on the side, you feel like, maybe I should invest this, maybe I should make some more money from this, because you know, like we were having these conversations where like once you have a lot of money, it's easy to make more money. And what do you think about that? Like once you have some money, what are some do's, what are some don'ts when it comes to like, okay, let's start making more money out of this?
Well, I'd say in the beginning, you know, so for people who've made some money in poker, I would say in the beginning, wait, right? Until you have so much money that it's really like the fact that it's sitting there is really hurting you, because it could do so much more and potentially make you a significant amount of money compared to what you're making in poker. Then it's probably time to start doing something, right? So let's say, remember when you had 10K, let's say you run it up to 15K. That's not the time to invest, right?
Yeah.
You should still be like the highest EV investment is for you still poker. But, you know, for me, for instance, you know, online poker, you know, you can only play so big. Eventually, you know, you kind of know what you can get out of it.
Yeah.
And if you have money, you know, on the side, you can use that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So mostly, I mean, what everybody does is, you know, everybody has a fear of missing out on a good bet or a good investment. So you have to be very careful. You have to, you know, again, same as starting a business. Sometimes it looks really appealing, but you have to rationally look at the facts. And if you don't feel it's right, don't do it, even if you really want to.
Yeah.
Right? Only if you're sure. Only if you're, I mean, of course, you can never be sure. That's why it's an investment. But you have to be quite sure. And as I said, you have to be very careful. I would say don't trust people. I mean, that sounds bad. There's only a couple of people in poker I really trust. People, obviously, you know, I've seen a lot of guys who are very, very nice. When once money is involved, they turn very nasty. Even people you'd never expect. They turn very nasty. So people always try and embellish the truth to make themselves or their investment or their opportunity look better. So I would say do your own research and don't really listen to what people say. Look at the merits of an investment. Don't really look at how it's being pitched. Just look at the facts. And be very, very careful. And also, one of the reasons I don't suggest in the beginning of your career is because you'll miss leadership skills, right? So when you're like 21, you're afraid to say no. You're afraid to speak up to people, right? And weakness. So basically, if you are in a business, you cannot be weak. Because people will take advantage of you. Right? They will take advantage of you. If you let people screw you over in business, they absolutely will. So obviously you should try and be nice to people and you should be fair, but you should not let people screw you over. And that doesn't mean you have to act sometimes. You have to be stern. You have to hurt people's feelings sometimes. Because otherwise they will screw you. I mean,
do you think this is stuff you kind of have to learn on your own from experience?
I mean, you're one of the very few guys that I felt like has never really tried to do that, right? Where like you could have maybe taken advantage, but you didn't.
How do you know?
Right? Well, I mean, like, I met your brother and sister once. They didn't have money. You know, we went to dinner. They didn't have money in their pocket. They'll say, oh, we'll pay you back soon. So I paid for everybody, and obviously they never paid, right? So I saw like, wow, what a difference between just your brother and you, because obviously, I mean, he knew from the beginning he was never going to pay, but that's something you would have never done. So you see already a big difference in approach there, right? And you see especially like people who don't have that much. Obviously, it's easier for you. Yeah, obviously, bang bang. It's easier for you to be a good guy than for them because you have a lot more money than them, right? It's very easy to be ethical when it doesn't matter to you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like if people have almost nothing, then you really see their character because they have something to lose. So if they have $1,000 in the bank and they had to give me 50, I mean that's 5% of their money, right? That's significant. But if let's say you have $1 million in your account, well, you spent $50. Who cares? It doesn't do anything for you, right? It doesn't hurt you at all. So you really see people's characters once the money matters to them. But I would say be very careful. Do a lot of research and don't jump into things just because you're excited. I know that's all very, scary and I'm sounding overly cautious, but you have to be.
Yeah, I do think you have to like burn yourself a bit.
You will. I mean, I'm saying this, guys, don't think that I just knew all of this. I learned the hard way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I learned the hard way. For instance, last year, I'll tell you, like, so there are these chats on Skype, and they basically, people offer some type of currency, right? They say like, oh, I offer 1K on Poker Stars, and in return, I want 1K on Party Poker, stuff like that. Or like, hey, I want 10K on Party Poker, and I'll give you Bitcoin, right? So you basically trade on different platforms. And you can have something called a hard vouch. A soft vouch basically means me saying, hey, Daniel's a good guy. I think you'll have no trouble doing business with him. But if you screw the guy, well, that's on him, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if I hard vouch for you, that means that if you screw him, I have to pay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's usually how you trade. Somebody hard vouches for somebody. So if the one guy screws you, you have to pay. So I had a trade where I traded 2 Bitcoin, and at the time it was worth 10 grand each. So that was last year.
Okay.
So a 20 grand trade, which I mean it's quite a bit of money, right?
Yeah.
And somebody hard vouched.
Yeah.
And so so basically the guy who sends first is always at risk, right? Because once you've received the money, you're not. I mean, you just send your share.
Yes.
And I usually don't send first because people know that I'm not going to screw them.
Yeah.
So, but I did send first this time, and basically that guy had hacked into the chat and found this, like, made a second account and like hard vouch for himself, and I got scammed for those 2 Bitcoins. So I lost $20,000.
Wow.
Right, which is, if that happened in Romania, you'd expect a couple of tough guys in front of your door. Obviously, I can't find out who this guy is, but that's a lot of money. And that's just like one, like I've probably made over 500 trades in those chats, right? And that's the only time I've been screwed. I mean, a couple of people have tried. That guy actually made some new accounts and tried the same thing, but it was I saw through it luckily. But just one little slip. Yeah. One little slip, and you see you're down 20 grand. I mean, that's obviously, it's not really investing, but I was trying to move money around. I mean, I was trying to, in a sense, I was working on my career, right? I was, let's say I was short on Party Poker. So I thought, okay, if I spend money on Party Poker, I'll have more table supply and, I improve my EV a little bit. So in that sense, it's a little bit of an investment. I didn't watch out once, and it cost me a lot of money.
Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah, it's pretty huge. Okay.
And that type of stuff is quite common. So you should realize, like, even though that's a hard vouch, I mean, nowadays, like, I don't send first to anybody. Like, to you, we trade smaller amounts generally. If we do trade, like, I'll send first. I don't care. But, to maybe other than maybe like 3, 4, 5 people, I don't send first to anybody under any circumstance. And if they want me to, then I'll just say no. Right. So
Okay.
I became more careful.
Yeah.
I know there's one German guy. You guys probably don't know him, but he's a guy who's invested a lot in staking. He's made tens of millions in staking, probably more. And basically, he would just do the exact opposite because he never got burned. Like, people, like, a guy once came up to him at the WSOP, the main event, just said, like, or like at the tournament, said, like, hey, do you want to buy 50% of my main event? He just told him his nickname, like, no information given. He just took the action blind, right? Or it was just like, oh no, it was not even the main event, it was just a smaller tournament. So it was like $300 or $500 worth. Yeah. And like 2 days later, the guy came to him, found him, and he's like, oh, here's an envelope with 10 grand. I won a lot. Right? So if these types of things happen to you on a regular basis, obviously you're going to think, well, scamming, yeah, that's just something you hear in the news. That's not a real thing, right? Wow, because, I mean, hey, I give the guy $300 or $500, I got 10 grand back. Sweet, yeah. Right? Yeah. I mean, I wasn't, that one, he was stuck in my pocket. I wasn't going to do anything with it, and I just now made back, 20, 30 times the money. But eventually, you'll see that guy in the news, hey, you won the tournament, and you message him, hey, did you forget about me? So like, I don't know who you are, and you think, well, no, we made a deal. Oh, well, can you prove that? Do you have that on paper? No. Okay, then fuck you. So you need to get burned sometime to learn. Yeah. So that's why obviously you start with smaller amounts, with safer investments. Yeah. Expect to get burned with some of them, and then you learn, right? Yeah. But you will get screwed. Yeah. And maybe that's the one guy that hasn't been screwed, or just is just very naive but got lucky, or maybe he since got screwed. But once you do get screwed, and you will, I think, you'll learn. So take it easy, guys. Like, start slowly and then potentially ramp it up. And also, do you really want to invest a large amount of money you've got into something you don't know that much about? No, right? Yeah. So yeah, nowadays I do all kinds of things, mostly in the poker world still, but I'm a little bit more cautious.
Okay, still, those are some pretty good guidelines there, and like we're saying here, you have to get burned a bit, but I think, like, because you always think it's more. I'm also talking from experience. You always think it's more safe than it is. You always think it's more like a sure deal. Yeah. Because again, you don't know. Yeah, like we are used to having a lot of confidence with poker. You just don't know other areas or like variables.
Yeah. People cannot really be trusted. That sounds sad, but people cannot really be trusted. There's very few people that I truly trust in life. I mean, there's a lot of people I trust in life until money comes into play, right? Yeah. A lot of people I trust, like. Let's say if I were drowning, I'm pretty sure they would jump in the water and they would try and rescue me. Yeah. I'm pretty sure of it. But I'm pretty sure that if something happened financially, well, let's say we have a dispute where both sides of the story make sense. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't say, oh, like, we're going to split the difference, right? Let's say we both invested in something, went wrong, and we found out who's to blame. And we say, okay, I think we both had a part of it. Let's say we lost $1,000. We send 500 each, and it's about right, and we preserve our friendship. That's when you see people will screw you. It happens all the time. So just, guys, remember, that's why also you have to be very careful going into business with your friends. I'm not saying that it's gone wrong for me, but be careful going into business. You'll think, well, I've known this friend for 10 years. He's a good guy, whatever. People change when money's around, when money's involved. It's very deceiving, but it does happen. Yeah.
That's very, very, very good advice on this area as well. Okay,
and one thing to finish that, I mean, the goal is obviously that you have your money working for you, right? That basically this morning I woke up with more money than when I went to bed last night because I have investments going on, right? So that's ideally what you want. You want your money working for you. So I'll give you an example. Yeah, and that's the only example I'll give you because it's already giving way too much information. So, for instance, a few days ago, what I did was I sent somebody a very large amount of money, and I basically said, I mean, you have 24 hours to send it back, and I get a certain amount of money for it, and every day you're late, you're going to pay me a penalty, right? And it took him 5 days to get the money back. So basically, I sent him that money. It was vouched so many ways. There's no way it could have gone wrong. I made sure to, have 5 safety checks. Okay. But basically, I woke up and I had more money than I had the day before, right? Because that money was working for me. That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
And in the beginning, you have to be very careful with the amounts you spend. You have to know how to approach things, right?
Yeah.
But that's something simple you can do. I mean, it was just like short-term loans. I do them all the time,
Yeah.
right? It can be many things. Of course, that's it's pretty high in EV, but you have to know how to manage the risk, because otherwise it's not even winning, right? Yeah, sure, you're winning. You're making money when you don't get screwed, but if you do, so you have to make sure there's virtually no chance of getting screwed.
Yeah. 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 MMA loan shark. Yeah, that's
Yeah, and if you try and fuck me, I'm gonna send the Romanian boys over.
yeah, he knows.
So either you send the money or you lose your teeth.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of the hard vouch there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to a bit like lighter stuff, because don't want to take you on for too long.
I got time.
Okay, cool. Let's talk a bit about your situation, and as a poker player in general, having like spending in like online, especially like spending a lot of time at your computer, just like mostly grinding, like you are doing, like also always doing work, also like kind of being inside a lot. Of course, you have the option of what Johnny was doing, our friend, of really grinding the clubs a lot and going out and getting drunk, partying a lot. But your approach was kind of different when it came to meeting girls.
Well, just to interrupt quickly, like
Yeah.
it's not as if it was an approach, it's just the way I am, right? I just naturally,
okay.
even when I was 17, I would not really, like, my friends would go to clubs every week, and I would rarely join them just because I don't like it. But, probably half the guys in there were guys who didn't like it. They just wanted to be there just because that's what you're supposed to do. Where I am probably a bit different is that I don't really care. Right, I was more like, I don't want to go, so I'm not going to go, and I don't care what that makes me look like. I'm not going to stand there for 6 hours, right? Whereas I'm not having much fun after hour 1 or 2, and just so I look cool, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then like when you're a teenager, sometimes that doesn't help, but in the end, people do admire that.
Yeah.
So, for instance, in high school, a lot of people thought, oh, he was that guy who always talks about cars. He loves cars. But nowadays, people come up to me and say, oh, you love cars. That's so cool. Like, I love cars too now, right?
Yeah.
Whereas other people would like cars, but they'd be afraid to speak up on it because they'd be afraid of being judged or something. But my mentality is saying, this is who I am, and you can like it or not. And as a teenager, some people will not like that, but later on in life, people admire that. People who just say, who I am, and I'm not going to change that for anybody.
Okay, yeah, that's so. Yeah. To be fair, that's true. That's also something like you don't really like just partying a lot, going out a lot. Okay, so in this position as a poker player, you probably still want to meet girls, right? I think it's.
Oh wait, sorry. Give me 1 second, please.
Sure. We're gonna find out some secrets, guys, from some top tips for meeting some girls, because I saw MMA.
Sorry, my little brother was asking me something.
Sure.
He's making some spaghetti later today, so
Nice.
Obviously I have to answer him when I'll be available for food. All right, sorry. Go
Everyone cooks there in your family, it seems like.
Actually, no. My brother and I cook, and my parents eat. No, I'm kidding. They do it. They do a good job. So yeah, my brother and I are kind of the same. Like, we both like to cook.
Nice. Yeah. That's also like a hobby you have. I can definitely hard vouch for MMA's food. He definitely also knows how to use it. Sounds like pretty random, but you guys will see. So yeah, let's see, like as a poker player, and usually we're more like introverted. It's easier, it's more like accessible to maybe like get some girls over, meet some girls from Tinder. And over the years, you came a long way. Definitely, I saw your progression through stakes.
Sure.
From when I moved to Malta to when I left recently. You grew before my eyes. And yeah, you had like some pretty good success with meeting girls on your own terms, from like just like chatting like on Tinder, which I also think can be like a big waste of time. So you have to be careful there. So, but yeah, definitely
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely someone who had some nice results, having a wide range. He had a wide range of girls over. And that's a...
Well, okay, that is quite an exaggeration, but yeah,
okay,
sure.
Okay. I mean, yeah, in more like age terms. I mean,
sure. I hope my mom doesn't listen to that. No, we're all kidding, Mom.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, no, he didn't. He's just like a good
no,
guy.
I think Tinder's a good way to meet girls. So the issue of being a poker player is that you're inside a lot, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, I would mostly work, and then I would go to the gym, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu. But the girls there are not the most feminine, so I wasn't too interested in them. And I'm not a guy who likes going to clubs too much. So that's the best. I know obviously I'm in a foreign country, so I don't really know like people from earlier in life. So yeah, I would go on Tinder sometimes and meet girls. I mean, also my favorite types of girls are generally Latin. And I mean, where the hell are you going to meet a Latin girl in the Netherlands, right? So yeah, on Tinder you can find them.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a good strategy, and it's also fun, right? It was not just about dating or anything. Of course, it was about that too, but it's just fun to see somebody meet somebody from Brazil or then from Argentina or whatever, right? Because I've never been there. Like part of it just, I mean, I've always wanted to go on a date with a North Korean girl. I've never been on one, but I've always wanted that because I just want to ask, like, what the fuck's really going on there? I want to know. Not even with any like sexual goals or anything, but just I want to ask, like, what the fuck's going on there? Is it like what you see in the news? Like, how much of that is real? I just want to ask questions. It's almost like what you're doing now, right? Like, I just want to know more about people's cultures.
Yeah. That's a big thing. So like, what would you say are like some main factors that contributed to you like just knowing some cool girls, getting some girls over, having some good times? What do you think are like the main takeaways for people here in the chat who maybe they want to meet some girls over Tinder? They don't really like going to clubs.
Well, I definitely wouldn't consider myself a dating specialist. Well, it depends on what you want, of course, right? So, I mean, I've always been fine, like just going on random dates with girls, but in the end, I always wanted like a long-term relationship with them. But I'm very picky.
Yeah.
So, I would say I've met 4 girls in my life that I would say are had potential to be like have potential to be partners for life. But the problem is when you live abroad, it's very difficult, right? Like the first girl I was in love with, like you know who it is.
Yeah.
Like I mean, one of the issues is that we lived in Malta, but eventually, like now I know she moved away, right? Or I would have moved away.
Yeah.
Or the second person I dated seriously lived in another country. We met in Malta, but then not long after meeting, she left, and then you're stuck meeting somebody in another country, right? It's very difficult. So Malta is a place where you can meet a lot of great girls because they're from everywhere. So it doesn't matter what you like. Doesn't matter like what skin color, what language they speak, whatever their culture is, you can find them all. But the problem is they don't stay, right? Malta is a place where you can meet new people, have new experiences, but it's not really a place to settle down. Yeah. Unless you date Maltese girls, but I'm sorry, like I have done that before, and I don't want to generalize. Of course, I don't want to generalize. I'm sure there's great girls from every country, but the average Maltese girl doesn't exactly attract me. Physically, not so much, but especially the personality. And of course, like one of our good friends is German, and he's engaged to a Maltese girl, and she's awesome. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So she's awesome, but there's also quite a few ones that I, it's not for me. I'm not saying that they're inferior to anybody. Of course not, but it's just not my thing.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's fun to meet people on Tinder or just whatever, right? Because you don't go outside very often. Yeah. And I mean, do you really want to find your wife in a club?
I know. Want to find your wife on Tinder?
You'd also prefer not to, but sure. It's a good point. So I actually remember when I was 18, I went to Spain to like a party town. It's one of the few times we did party a little bit.
Yeah.
And there was a guy with us. I didn't know him very well. He found a random girl at the club, and they were just making out and like hanging out, nothing more. And now they're married and have 2 kids. They met in Spain at 18. Wow. It was like 10 years ago or something.
Sick.
So I mean, it can happen, but of course these are exceptions, right?
Yeah.
And mostly what I would say when it comes to Tinder, whatever, like again, if you're prepared, right, like if you have a bit of success in poker or in your career, and like you go to the gym and you get in better shape and you become more social, whatever, once you kind of move up in the hierarchy, and obviously that's that's just a hierarchy that's different for everybody else.
Yeah.
More women will become available to you. When I started dating, when I have more success, I was looking and I was like, wait, these girls are like really, really hot and they're really cool. Like, how the fuck did I do that? Like, I always, like in the last few years, I've always dated up easily, right?
Yeah.
And I said it to them sometimes too, but then I thought, well, let's actually do something to be proud of. I mean, if they're very smart, they're very cool, they're pretty and whatever, they've got everything you'd want, you think, yeah, that's good. But when I was like 18, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Right, because I didn't have those social skills. I didn't have any money, or not just money, but just success and like being proud of that, or like, you know, having like many hobbies or accomplishments. Right, I wasn't that high up the hierarchy, obviously. Let's say. I know that sounds a bit. It sounds a bit Darwinian and sounds a bit douchey, of course, but you know, there's just some people who have more access to partners than others, right? In the beginning, I had very limited access, and eventually, as you said, you move up in stakes. And I'm not by any means saying I'm a nosebleeds player, of course not. But you move up, right? You move up gradually, and like
you just work on your game.
Available. You work on your game, and eventually you'll see somebody that really, you know, blows you away, literally and figuratively, and you say, okay, that's the person, you know, I want to be with. But it's a process, right? I mean, how many people meet their wife as their first girl?
Yeah, not.
And you probably wouldn't want to do that, because then you just, you know, you're not prepared, and then maybe you let that one slip away.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, a good question in the chat. How do you keep? Do you keep your financial status incognito when dating to avoid gold diggers? From Mattia, and guys are. Asking about this. What's your take on this? Like, them knowing how much money you make, or like knowing what you do. What's your take on that?
I've never mentioned anything like that. So I do tell them, like, I mean, people ask first, hey, you live in Malta, you're not from Maltese, why are you here? Well, because I work here. Oh, so what do you do here? Yeah, I have my own business. And then of course that probably sounds cool, right? So obviously they see some kind of success, which is fine, right? I don't mind radiating a bit of success, but I don't mention numbers, or like I try and avoid poker as much as I can. Even when I was way more serious with people, like I wouldn't really mention numbers unless like something was specifically asked, right? Yeah. And then even like not just like clear numbers, but just saying like, okay, this is maybe like what I really do, kind of like that. So, you know, I would want somebody to like me just for myself. And obviously, I mean, success does matter, right? But it's not success. You can't just measure that only in terms of money. It's also, I mean, if you can dictate your own hours, right? You are in charge, stuff like that. Of course, if you make money, if you've accomplished something, if you give back to the community, etc. Those are all forms of success, and women are attracted to that. And men not as much. Men tend to date people who are at the same level as them or slightly below, whereas women tend to date up.
Definitely, yeah.
No, that's actually been proven scientifically. I mean, you'd have to categorize people, right? Of course, which is difficult, but that does tend to happen. But women look at a guy who is successful, right, and not just in terms of money. So there's nothing wrong with that, as long as, of course, I mean, I've had that before. I've been on a few dates with like Eastern European girls. Shout out to them, but they are known to be gold diggers.
Shout out to them, yeah.
I went on a few dates, I mean, it was a long time ago, but with a Russian girl. I mean, she had absolutely zero personality, and like was only after money, it seemed.
What's her name, Katya?
No, that's the girl you went out with. No, and she was Belarusian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you sending me a video of you two. So, no, but I mean, everybody is after something. So it's good to show some success, but you don't have to mention like how much you've got or anything like that. Eventually, like they'll notice that you do well, right? If you go to a nice restaurant, or they see that you woke up at 12 or something like that, they'll recognize that. But that's all. You don't need to say. And often you actually probably look more powerful if you don't go out of your way to brag about things. Yeah.
So you don't go to dates saying like, like OTB stacked me at 10K again, fuck this guy, I'm down like 60K to him now.
No. Okay. I would not, if she didn't like me, I would not respect her.
Oh, so you can do it as a trap.
No, because I'm just sabotaging myself, right? Because then if she is indeed a cool girl, she's going to dislike me. And if she's cool, then like if I don't like her, then maybe she'll like me.
So you have reverse implied odds if you do that.
Yeah, I'm just basically like, I would go on a date to potentially have success, right?
Yeah.
So, but I'm basically undermining my success just to find out if it wouldn't be successful. But I'd like to think I'm clever enough to figure that out without setting the trap, as you said, without betting third pot with the nuts on the river.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. To just induce. Okay, okay. Tell one of your strongest moves when it comes to this area that I have observed over the years, perfected over many. Like definitely you put some time in the lab there, and it's almost flawless now. Is the GTO salmon move?
Yeah, sure. I mean, salmon is it's actually something I don't cook as much anymore, because I
Because
don't
you
have as
don't
much.
need to.
I don't need to anymore. No, exactly.
Yeah.
So tied down, locked up, and everything. So yeah, I like salmon. It's pretty good. Actually, I haven't really convinced women as much as I've convinced you, right? Because I mean, I
True.
remember you proposing to me once after I fed you
True.
salmon.
It's
It's
true.
only because you generally weren't being fed very much, but
It's true.
after I fed you salmon, you went on one knee.
Yeah. It's I told him like I would definitely marry him for like his cooking skills are really good. Mine are kind of shit. I think I'm solid. I'm decent, but definitely not MMA level. And yeah, his GTO salmon definitely very GTO, definitely very good. That's actually a recipe me and Andrea stole from you, you know.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm actually still having like I had it like 1 week ago, maybe.
Nice.
I
It's not
still
as
have
if
it
I
like
invented
regularly.
this. Nice. Yeah, I had some off the barbecue yesterday, but I didn't even prepare that. My mom did. So yeah, I would say you guys should look at the cooking, right? It saves you some money. You eat better. I think it's nice to just stand up rather than sit down all day. Like you don't have to look at a screen. You can just turn off your brain. I think it's a good way to like calm down from let's say you play a long session and then you just cook. And in half an hour you'll have dinner on the table. So I try and cook meals that are nutritious and not that fancy.
Yeah,
Right, so
definitely.
I generally have some kind of meat or fish, and then have some kind of like rice, potatoes, pasta, whatever, and vegetables. That's it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't cook foie gras or anything fancy like that, or like I don't shove like an egg up inside a bigger egg inside of a quail, inside of a chicken, inside of a pheasant, inside of a turkey. Any of that, I don't do any of that stuff.
Okay.
Just a simple meal. So for instance, I'll make what I make a lot nowadays is a risotto, right? I just
Yeah.
make like a wild mushroom risotto, something like that. Maybe I add some salmon on top of that. That's it.
Yeah.
I add a bunch of vegetables, or I make like paella or something like that. Just again, a combination of like some fish maybe, or some meat, some rice, and some vegetables. Simple but delicious.
Okay. That's yeah. Pretty basic. Yeah, like just like solid stuff. Definitely some solid game plan there. Gonna hit you with unforeseeable question because I'm actually curious. I was like thinking now like what is the most degen thing you ever did?
There's one thing, but I'm not gonna mention that one. It's not that special. It's really not that special. If you listen to it, it'd be like, oh, funny story, but nothing special. What's the most degen thing you did in terms of spending money, or just like?
Just like I think that because I know you're not like definitely like not a big degen, but you definitely had some stuff like, but like probably yeah, like not as big as other people we know. So first, yeah, like that, like, and actually that would be a good one to compare. Like, what's the best, the biggest degen thing you did? It's just like general that what comes to mind.
In terms of spending money, it would be in Vegas. There's a racetrack, and I drive around like a Ferrari or something like that, like once or twice a year. But I don't think it's punting money, right? Because I've been a huge fan of cars my whole life. So if I give myself something like this once a year, maybe twice, I don't think that I'm really punting money. But it's obviously pretty expensive.
Yeah. Okay.
So in terms of money, it would be that. In terms of just like degenerate behavior, I've gone many times where we're not showering for a week, just pissing in bottles, like shit like that, which is kind of nasty.
Yeah.
So
that would qualify. Okay.
That's pretty. Yeah, but it's just nasty. Okay, something more fun, let's say.
Yeah, like crazy. Yeah, something like crazy.
I don't know. I mean, we went to the strip club with the guys in Vegas once, and we were pretty drunk, and then we had to like run out the back door to get out.
No,
That was kind of.
That's...
But again, not that special. I don't know. I just don't have many degenerate stories to tell. Sorry, guys. Like, if you want to degenerate, I can message like Dino Supremo. Maybe we can get him on the podcast.
Yeah.
You'll have to do like a 10-hour podcast.
Yeah, just like
Right?
Degen Stories podcast.
I can fill like a 3-hour podcast with Dino Supremo stories, and I don't know him, extremely well.
Yeah, just from what you know. And yeah, that is actually gonna be the next question, where it's like, okay, we know like your level of Degen. Now, like, what's the most Degen story you know? You like know like from someone else, like someone else did, like a big Degen thing, like maybe like a Highstakes pro or someone.
I mean, I don't know if I can say stuff like that. I know
you
some
don't have
really
to name the name. You don't have to.
All
name.
right. I mean, I do know a guy who would go on coke benders in Malta and go to strip clubs and just get like all the hookers and stay there for hours in the back, just fucking whatever, do coke and whatever, just like gigantic parties.
Yeah.
I know a guy like. I mean, I don't know him personally, but he's I believe he's a billionaire. But no matter, he's very rich. And no, it's not Bill Perkins. He's from New York, and he's a very rich guy. And he, in the summer, I haven't seen him. I didn't see him last summer, but he would play PLO, right? I think like 20K or something. So he plays PLO. He's a very rich guy, big fish, and he would. I think he always stayed at the Bellagio, but I think he switched casinos because he would have orgies in the penthouse. So he'd basically rent the penthouse, and he'll have orgies, and he would invite midgets. He would invite animals sometimes, like goats.
Invite animals? Hey, Mr.
No, seriously. And you would see something like goats, or like sheep, just being like walked through the Bellagio into the elevator, and they would have orgies. I'm not sure if something was done with the sheep. I'm not obviously saying that, but just like basically somebody who has unlimited money is just trying to spend it on purpose, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't fully believe that, and actually I heard it from So I heard that from a poker player, and then I heard it from Joe Ingram.
Yeah.
And then it was a guy on like the Joe Rogan podcast. His name is Neil Brennan, a comedian, and he was telling the story too. And they all were telling like the exact same story, right? Wow. And then like he said he'd been to that party. So like people from like different eras of life confirmed like the same story, and then people said like, oh, that's the guy. So yeah. I don't have any pictures of sheep being walked through the Bellagio, of course, but I would say that's a pretty degenerate thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to go more degenerate than that.
What is more degenerate than that? I mean, I would say Valentine donking off his money in poker on purpose. That's pretty degenerate. Just losing on purpose because he don't have his money anymore. That's pretty degenerate. I mean, I don't know if you could call it degenerate. It's just more like mental illness. So I felt kind of bad when I heard that. I mean, obviously, that guy has bigger issues than that.
Yeah.
It's another degenerate thing.
Yeah.
Just some guy who drank a root beer once with Dino Supremo and then, had no idea where he was. That's pretty degenerate.
Yeah, like how can someone do something so irresponsible? It's kind of weird.
Exactly. Other than that, I don't know. That's about it. I guess nothing too crazy other than that.
Yeah, makes sense. That's definitely crazy enough. Okay, now to kind of like finish it up, I'm curious about the future. What are your plans? Where are you gonna live? As much as you can talk about that, like where do you see yourself? Like, what's the trajectory you are on now for the next like few years, maybe?
When it comes to where I'm going to live, I actually don't know. I am kind of sick of Malta, to be honest, so I'm definitely not going back there. At least, I'll go back occasionally, just for business because, our company's located there. Mm-hmm. So I'll have to be there like occasionally, but I don't want to live there anymore. So I actually don't know where. Austria is a good option, maybe UK for like a tiny bit, Sweden, Mexico, like Brazil, Asia, maybe not as much. It's too far.
Okay.
At least like Mexico. Mexico's still a bit closer, in terms of just how fast you can get home. Yeah. So I think my first destination now will be Mexico. And as for my poker career, I just plan on playing poker for many more years. I plan on coaching a lot, as I have done in the last 3-4 years, and I want to grow above the spot really badly, right? Especially like when when you have like your own little project. Of course, not my own. We have lots of people working with us, so it is not my effort. But a joint effort. But when you like see your own thing like grow in front of you, it's really nice, right? You really want to push and see how successful it really can become. It's really fun to do that. Even like because when I was a kid, I wondered, you see guys like El Chapo or whatever, and they have so much money, and you think, why not just get out of that business, right? Why not just get out of the business? You take your money with you, go sit on an island. You'll never have to work again. You just pay them off so they don't kill you, right?
Yeah.
Why would you do it? I mean, you went into it mostly to make money. You made the money. Why are you in it? And it's, they're not only in it for the money, but they're in it for power. I'm not into anything for power. I don't care about that at all. But what they did probably do is, they started something from nothing, and they saw like their own baby, right, grow in front of them, and that's really fun to see. And it's really hard to just say I'm just going to get rid of that, right? I'm just going to sell the company, whatever. And yes, that's a lot of money potentially, but you just want to see your own project or like the projects you set up with friends, do well.
Yeah.
So I really want to coach a lot, grow Bluff the Spot, and of course keep playing, right? I want to continue to play high stakes for as many years as I can, and just have fun. Right now I'm not really bound to too much, so I'm just gonna freestyle and see what happens.
Nice. Okay, so it sounds like you're kind of like your plan is kind of to stick to the same trajectory to what you're doing right now. Just like keep doing it because you like it, you enjoy it, and just kind of keep doing it. Okay, that makes why not? That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, let's actually go a bit into it more like now with Bluff the Spot. I'm pretty sure now, like I mean for sure now, but yeah, you're just basically like the powerhouse when it comes to like coaching for profits. You guys are like by far probably like the biggest company. And most well known.
Well, there's some other guys, you have the B2B, but they mostly do tournaments. You have some like
cash games.
Yeah, they have some cash stuff too, I think. But I mean, I'm not going to shit on them because I don't know them, right? So they might be good. I know some of the guys involved are good players and they're good guys. So I'm not going to say anything bad about them. But as far as I know, we've definitely got the best product on the market. As in, because we focus on quality first, and because of that, it took us quite a while to build up.
Yeah.
So there probably were other CFPs that got students more quickly. Yeah. But, I don't see success as the amount of students you have, right? I see it as how well those students do.
Okay.
And with coaching for profits structure, the more money the students make, the more you make, right? So in the end, it does benefit you as well. But, I mean, I'm not just of course, I spend quite a bit of time on Bluff the Spot. I want to make money with it, right? It's not charity. I've helped many people just for free in the last few years, but I want to make money, and there's nothing wrong with offering an honest product for an honest price. So I want to make money, but I want to really also give back to the community, because what I forgot to tell you guys when I didn't, I signed up to round ones or whatever, and I studied through them, whatever. They've been so helpful to me. They've always invited me, been my friend, right? They've always helped me, and I really haven't given them back that much. Lately, I've tried to give back more, but I kind of see that I'm in debt. Maybe not to run once necessarily, but to the poker community. So the improvements I've made and the success I've had, I want to share them with new players, right? So for instance, with you, I mean, I don't want to take full credit for what I did, what you did, because that was mostly you, right? But at least we gave you a nice push in the right direction.
Definitely.
Or I know one guy who said like, oh, I got a wedding ring and paid my honeymoon with the money I just recently made in poker, which I would have never made before. Like, oh, I've made so much money that I never made before, right? These are really good stories to hear. I was able to quit this job I hated and now play poker. So you're making it sounds like you're not really contributing to society. I mean, you're teaching people how to play cards, but when you see they're making tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, I mean, you're changing their life, right?
Yeah.
A guy like Tax here. I mean, he started at 100 NL, and by the time he was finished, he was winning $250,000 tournaments. Right. I mean, that's a complete, that's a huge difference. And obviously, again, Taxia did most of that work himself. We pushed him in the right direction. You did most of the work yourself. We pushed you in the right direction. But I think that's what coaching is about, right? Just basically about kicking your ass, getting you out of bed, making you work hard, and making you work smart, and along the way, improving the process. Basically, filtering out the mistakes that we made, right? I've made a lot of mistakes in my career, but then I can tell you, hey, don't do this because I've done the same thing and I got burned, right? So we can basically accelerate your learning process by filtering out career mistakes, obviously by filtering out many mistakes you make in game.
Yeah.
So it's just, we want to provide like a longer term investment into you being successful for life, right?
Definitely.
So that's why we don't offer hourly coaching, because I plug a couple of leagues, which opens up other leagues potentially, and then I don't look at them anymore, right? So I want like a longer term investment into turning you from like a solid player to a fantastic player who is more professional and has a different outlook on life, and that can be very successful, right? Yeah. I want to see guys who like don't have that much and become millionaires, right? That's just a great story. It's not just about the story, but that's life-changing experience, right? And of course, that's not going to happen for everybody. In fact, it's not going to happen for most people.
Yeah.
What I see mostly the students that fail, I mean, what you see most commonly is not the fact that they're not intelligent or anything like that, is that they don't work. That's it. You know, people love reaping rewards, but they don't like working hard.
Yeah.
That's the main issue. I mean, you see guys, they join, they play on all 50, and they play 20K hands a month, and they don't have another job. And you ask them, why don't you play more? It's like, oh, I don't want to. Well, but then, I mean, you're basically acting like a superstar, but you're not a superstar stake, so you don't have superstar money, right? So if you are a superstar and you act like one, that makes a little bit of sense, but you're already acting like one, but you haven't accomplished as much yet. So right now you have to absolutely work your ass off. And most people don't do that. And that's you know, that's just something you see a bit with, like, you know, the modern millennials, you know, millennial children or like young adults. They want a whole lot, right? But they don't want to work for it.
Actually, that's
people should really learn that if you want to accomplish something, you have to work for it for many years, very hard. If you want to date girls that are more successful, more beautiful, just greater, well, you have to work on yourself. If you want to buy a nice house, you're gonna have to work hard for it. If you want to improve in anything in life, you have to work very hard. You know, and people, of course, people at the top of that hierarchy, you know, understand that because they had to do that. But people at the bottom, they don't like this hierarchy. They kind of deny that it even exists because, I mean, they know that at the bottom of it. And instead of saying, I'm just going to work my way up, they say, yeah, I want the same as others, but I'm not willing to work for it. Right? Like you can say Jeff Bezos has a disgusting amount of money, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree. But he's also done a disgusting amount of work, disgusting amount of pressure, disgusting amount of stress, a huge contribution to society. Right? I mean, he changed the world. Now, he does underpay his employees or whatever, and that's not okay. But he's done a lot of good for society. He's done a lot of good for the economy, right? So, yeah, he still has made a disgusting amount of money. But if you look at his contribution versus a regular person's, he's made, I mean, he's put in more than thousands of people have. So he deserves to make a lot of money. Should it be a cap to it? Well, that's more of a political discussion rather than a psychological one. But, you know, people who work really hard get what's coming to them. And you see Mattia in the chat who never stops talking. You know, Mattia is one of those guys that's probably going to make it because, I mean, he's in every single chat, always blasting off comments all the time, right? Whenever I do any type of review, he's always the first one to ask me to show his stuff. He's very assertive. He's very motivated, right? And, of course, he's a smart and a nice guy. So I'm not worried that he's going to make it. He will, just because he's after me all the time, right? He knows, like, he's bordering, like, it's like he's constantly trying to push me, like, hey, do you want to review this stuff? Do you want to talk about this question? Hey, I'm going to see in this chat, I'm going to ask some more questions. He's always on you. Right? And honestly, if it were 100, if all 100 students did that, it would be too much. But I know most students aren't like that. So you guys should show that type of dominance and assertiveness, right? That willingness to learn.
Dominance.
Because I'm not worried that, like, if a Mattia asks me, hey, do you think I can make it? I'm like, yeah, sure, you can. Because, I mean, you're showing the same traits that, for instance, you showed, right? You always showed up prepared with a lot of questions, on time. You know, just you were always willing to work. You moved to Malta knowing it's going to be expensive, but you saw that there's potential, right? And you reaped the rewards in the sense that, you know, you were at 100 now doing fine, but now you're playing much higher stakes and doing even better. And, you know, you're doing stuff on the side with business. You're doing podcasts. People know you. You went from being like having some success to having a lot of success. But only because you're willing to take some risk and because you were assertive.
What would you say actually to, like, wrap on this? I mean, you already pointed out some, but like, because you like you said, you did work, and I know, like, you did work with many students. What are, like, some core, like, 2-3 traits that that you see, like, okay, makes, like, oh, this guy is, like, for, like, common traits that people, like, who don't make it, and for people who do make it as students, like, what are, like, the top 2-3 common traits there?
People who don't make it, well, lack of work ethic, mental difficulties, which is something I had problems with, but, you know, luckily I overcame it, kind of. Obviously, it's still not one of my strengths, but you know, not sometimes have the right mentality or approach, but mostly not working hard. Not being very open to learning, right? Just having your set ways and being very stubborn. Again, that's one of my weaknesses. As you know, I'm very stubborn. So, as you see, guys, a lot of these things I teach you is basically saying, like, don't do what I did because I know that hurt me, right? And I think it will hurt you as well. But it's mostly like a lack of work ethic and a lack of just good poker approach,
Yeah.
Right. Just, I mean, basically, some people, like, not most people don't work hard, but some people work hard, but they don't work smart. And if people work hard and as well as smart, they're gonna make it.
Yeah.
And you also see the guys who've had the best results, they also just have a general attitude, right? Like you, Jimmy DeRay, Tax here, those types of guys, Papa Shush, Maku FC, all those guys who went from low stakes to high stakes, they all just have this general attitude of humility, positivity, etc. Right. So, and that's something that's difficult to find. Obviously, I mean, generally the guys who are younger will work harder than the guys who are a bit older.
Yeah.
But the guys, so obviously that it's in that sense it's better to be young, but you do see that the guys who are older tend to show more humility than the guys who are young.
Yeah. Those are some really cool key things. How old is MMA? Somewhere between 20 and 50.
All right. Spoiler, guys. I've been saying I'm 34 for the last 3 years. So if you still didn't get that, you can't be 34 3 years in a row. I'm 27.
Boom! There you go, guys. Full disclosure.
I mean, when I started the podcast, I said it was when I started streaming 3 years ago, I said it was 34, and then last week I still said I was 34. So, and I was somebody who's been out there since day one. So something has to be up, guys. You have to deduce that that's not possible.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. There you guys go. How old is Daniel? I'm 31. I'm actually old now. I like to think I look younger, but yeah, I'm getting old.
Why do you think you're on camera and I'm not? Because you're the young looking one.
Yeah. Okay, this was really cool. A really cool first episode here with this podcast. Let's see if we can get some other guys on. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys. Really, I mean, this was like really good. And first of all, thank you to MMA for giving us quite a bit of his time here. And really, yeah, I learned a lot. I learned quite a bit from him. And I really like how we went into like his mind. Like, there's like a lot of things to learn in this podcast. Probably I feel like the first part of it was like really dense. He really discussed like a lot of like stuff that I know, because I know him. It was like really key to how like his perception on things is like why he is where he is now. So I think there's like a lot of great info in this podcast for you guys. I'm really happy with it, with how it turned out. So yeah, this is let's go. This is it. ShowOfForce podcast.
All right. Yeah.
So,
subscribe to his channel, guys.
Yeah.
And of course, subscribe to Bluff the Spot too. We also put out stuff regularly, but subscribe to Daniel. He's a good guy, and he's gonna give you guys a lot of content.
Nice. Yeah, actually, that's good. That's I have to get more. Yeah, see, getting the professional, the high AV attitude. I have to remember. Yeah, at the end also to specify. Yeah. Of course, subscribe here. Hit that bell button. I know it notifies you. I post very rarely usually. It's not like something like you're gonna get disturbed by. But of course, go to Bluff the Spot. Actually, I have been watching some of your content lately. They're owning up the streets there with the poker content on their Bluff the Spot channel. Of course, if you want to see more of MMA, of course, get into Bluff the Spot, the CFP. If you want to work privately with him, get that chance like I had. And but also you can just keep interacting with him. Sometimes he streams live on Bluff the Spot on the Twitch Bluff the Spot channel. So you can also have the fortune of interacting with him there. Because to be honest, like there's not that many guys at Highstakes who are open. So you guys are lucky that he has a high stakes. Like he's also like very good at high stakes, and he has a business, so it's also in his interest to put himself out there, because I know him. He would not do this. He's like a private person. He's not like, oh yeah, like me. Like I like opening up. I like sharing and like putting myself out there. He doesn't like that. So it's like a pretty lucky opportunity for you guys to see like how someone is successful things. Because yeah, I do think it's pretty rare. Like usually like high stakes guys cannot really interact with them, get into their mindsets. So yeah, thank you very much, MMA, again. And,
no worries. I'll come back if you'll have me.
Maybe, yeah. What do you think, guys? Maybe like a part 2 with MMA at some point. Let me know, and maybe we can make this happen. Okay, so that being said, I'm gonna go have a quick meal, and actually I have a coaching session after this, which I'm a bit late for, but it's gonna be good. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks for joining, guys, and good luck to you. We'll talk soon.
Yeah. Peace.
All right. See you guys. Have a good day. Stay safe.
Stay safe.